This is an ISE 2018 special. My name is Tom Albright. I am your host. We are headed to Amsterdam to cover ISE Integrated Systems Europe 2018 from February 6th through the 9th. But before we do that, we figured we would check in with some friends to see what they're going to be showing and what we're going to be showing you as we go by their stands. First and foremost, I want to talk with my buddy and pal Brady Bruce from InFocus. How are you, sir?
Great. Good to talk to you.
We'll talk to you, but one of the things that, and before I get further, because I will forget this, if you want to go by InFocus's stand at ISE, it is Hall 2, B as in boy, number 60, Hall 2, and if I'm not mistaken, that's roughly about where you guys were last year.
Where we've been for years, yeah. If you
okay.
walk into that main hall and stumble down that ramp, you'll pretty much fall into our booth.
Don't say stumble and fall. That's a bad thing.
Your toes are cold and you got ice in your shoes. It's Amsterdam in February.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, it happens. And then you get warmed up with beer. So hey,
exactly.
You guys have done a lot of cool things over the last couple of years, and if you haven't seen this, I'll put a link to this. Brady blew my mind last year at Infocom. I believe I said "holy crap" or whatever.
It was something like that.
It was something like that with your soft codec. So each and every show, I kind of expect something to come out of Brady's mouth that kind of either impresses me or just shocks me. So I'm not asking you to announce what you're going to be announcing on February 6th. That would be unfair. But what do you guys have coming down the line, and what are they going to see when they walk into that stand in Hall 2?
Oh, I'll go ahead and shock you. So
okay,
we have some significant product announcements, but some of I'm not at liberty to describe today, but given the date on which our conversation here airs, I am happy to tell you about a really significant product announcement from InFocus. Back in the summer of 2008, it was just about the time I joined what was in Jupiter Systems. We announced the first distributed display wall product. Up until that date, display wall processors were always giant black boxes full of a bunch of input and output cards that connected up sources and displays. Well, we announced PixelNet in June of 2008, and it is a distributed system. And instead of sort of in a giant, solitary monolithic box, we took those input and output resources and mounted them inside little nodes the size of paperback books. That were connected up using Cat5 cabling over a private network, using an industry standard switch. And what that allowed you to do was put the input nodes right at the sources, cameras and other encoders and things, and then put the output nodes right at the displays themselves. And by having a sort of distributed environment, I also had this beautiful interface that allows me in a virtual way to manage all the sources and all the outputs on a mimic on screen, and gives me an enormous amount of flexibility about what I show and how. And that was a big product. It was groundbreaking in its time. And by the way, this is uncompressed video.
Well, and it was over your own little private network too.
Yes, yeah. Because we're throwing so much data down that pipeline, the IT guys tend to get cranky about it if it's stepping on their email. So, but Cat 5e, Cat 6 cabling is so inexpensive. This is really not a big deal to run a parallel network. Well, that was a wildly successful product. And in fact, over the last 8 years, the world's biggest video walls have been built on PixelNet. I mean, monstrous things, right? With 200 displays, approaching 300 displays, really big walls, like in the Beijing Municipal Traffic Authority.
Oh, wow.
And the largest wall in the Southern Hemisphere, which is in Australia, where they manage fire protection and fire services in New South Wales. So really just majestic kind of installations. And by the way, since it's modular, it's also perfect for building little small walls.
Yep.
So it's this incredibly scalable thing. So it's been a great product, and it's been out there for a while, but we're back. It's time to refresh. There are of course, new standards in video resolution. And so we're announcing PixelNet 2.0. And it's a rethink of the original PixelNet concept. We're still pushing uncompressed video, right? When you really got to see it and you can't afford to have those digital compression artifacts And the other thing is the macro blocking that you sometimes see. Uncompressed video is what you want. And so we now have support for 4K.
Okay.
The systems can also connect over fiber, so you can take these signals very long distances indeed, not just across campus, but across the city or across the nation or even around the world. And we still have the input and output node concept, but we've now rack mounted much of that, because what we found out was people were rack mounting our nodes anyway. They were devising sort of ingenious things, some elements left near the edge, but a lot of them is sort of in a more centralized configuration. So you have sort of that option on how you're going to use it. And this gives us now sort of a refresh of this display wall system that's more powerful at higher resolutions with all the latest technology. But that addition of the fiber channel means we can now support things like digital signage. So a restaurant chain with some national or global footprint now can manage the display of, menu items and prices around the world. And some really interesting applications in security monitoring and process manufacturing and supply chain management on a global scale now with relative ease at incredibly high resolutions.
Good night. All right, so that is the PixelNet.
PixelNet 2.0, yeah.
PixelNet 2.0. Yeah. So we actually did got a hold of the new Mondopad about 6 months ago and did a review of that. A couple of folks did as well. Is there anything happening that we can talk about with Mondopad?
So there are some things happening with Mondopad. We just recently have released some new sizes, but we have more news in store for ISE. Okay. Some new models, some new capabilities that I'm not at liberty to discuss yet because we won't announce those until the first day of the show. But ISE is such an incredibly important show that we always have big announcements there. So the Mondopad line you'll see expand, I think, in some really incredible ways. Its little brother, the J-Touch, which is a Mondopad-like device, also an interactive screen with touch, but without the video conferencing capabilities. We did have a recent announcement there. We gave the J-Touch system, which historically has run the Windows operating system, Windows 10 most recently, but we now created a version of that runs Android natively.
Oh, wow.
And it's a result of requests that came from our very strong and very large educational segment. We had a lot of instructors in the K through 12 space who said, a lot of the best educational applications now are written specifically for Android, and I've adopted them in my classroom, and I'd like to have them available on a large touch screen like J-Touch. And so we provided what we call J-Touch Plus, which natively runs the Android OS. And so teachers, students can go download applications directly from the Google Play Store and other Android stores and run them on the device. And we added more abilities and different methodologies for attaching devices, both wired and wireless, which makes interaction with the classroom much, much easier. So multiple devices, and it can be wired or attached wirelessly for sharing content. Here are the results of this class's homework assignment. They can all put it on the board at the same time, work with it, walk up and annotate their favorite parts. And so that's a big deal. And that new J-Touch Plus is a 75-inch screen.
Okay, wow.
And that's sort of a trend we're seeing in the market. There's still a market for the smaller 55-inch range of displays. And the middle market, though, has tended to sort of disappear in favor of much larger displays. And so what you're seeing is an emergence of new 75-inch, 85-inch, 86-inch displays that'll hit the market around ISE. And as I said, we're going to have some new announcements in that space.
Do you think that is then that 75, 85, is that the new middle market, or do you think that is the higher end larger?
I think it's becoming the new middle market.
Okay.
I think that's where the bulk of the market goes. There's still a requirement for small spaces, whether it's small classrooms or huddle rooms, where that are well served by the 55-inch sort of segment of displays. But the rest of them seem to be saying, you know what, I got pretty big walls. Give me a big screen.
Well, yeah, I mean, not to be not for nothing, but our typical when I was a tech manager, our typical screen was 120 inches, right?
Right.
And I'm still waiting for an affordable 120-inch display to compete with that. So,
well, we're starting to see. I don't know if we're affordable yet in that regard, but certainly at CES this week, you did see manufacturers coming out with very large screens indeed.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, an ineluctable trend. I expect over time, even the display walls that are built in command centers, right, that now are built with a dozen or 2 dozen or many more individual screens arrayed in a rectangular series, I think going to be replaced in many instances just by really big screens.
Yeah,
it's possible. And with the emergence of, I think, OLED printed on flexible plastic substrates, you just imagine wrapping a room right in a display. Yeah. Some really cool stuff there.
Absolutely. All right, sir. I will let you get out of here. Again, if folks want to come by and see Brady and see all of the fine stuff at InFocus, you can go to Hall 2, B as in boy, 60. But Brady, not everybody in the world goes to ISE, even though they probably should.
They should.
Probably should, yeah. But if they are not, and they would like to follow along with the stuff that you couldn't say today and everything else that InFocus is going to be talking about that week, how do they do that?
Well, you can hit us up at infocus.com, and you can find us in the usual places on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. We're very active in those spots. I didn't get around to mentioning some new projectors that we've got. You need to come see those. We have some major announcements in the projector space. That is still an incredibly lively market.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely it is. All right. For more information about us, you can find us at AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv, you'll find our coverage of ISE there already as we're doing interviews like this and gearing up for it. Also, you can find our weekly and our daily shows as well. All that and more at AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv.